Welcome back. You're still tuned in to Salam Media with myself, Salailo Makwidiri. It's a beautiful, beautiful Heritage Day here in South Africa. And for many in the country, it's time for celebration. It's time for prize. On my way to work, I saw a lot of people in their traditional dress. It's a day for, traditional music and culture. But behind the color and festivity, the holiday has a bit more complicated story. September 24 was once marked as Shaka Day, honoring the Zulu king whose leadership reshaped the KZN region. And when the new democratic government drafted the public holidays bill back in 1995, Shaka Day was left out, and this sparked protest, especially from the Inkatha Freedom Party. The compromise, well, rebranded it as Heritage Day, what we know it to be today, a broader, somewhat more inclusive celebration meant to unite all South Africans. But that raises real questions. Does a vague, somewhat all-encompassing heritage risk diluting meaning? Does it paper over the fractures in our society, and from race and ethnicity to class and language, or can it serve as a unifying reminder of the diverse identities that make up our nation? United in our diversity, that's the slogan, right? But yeah, in 2025, things are slightly different. There's rising inequality, and you have younger generations who are questioning old traditions. How do we hold into heritage in ways that are living, that are relevant and honest about our past, but also, as I mentioned, relevant to our present and our future? And to help explore this, I'm joined by Zakhele Madela. He's a research and political activist. Bob Madela, thank you so much for joining us on a public holiday. Really, really appreciate you giving us your time this morning.
Yeah, good morning. How are you? Good morning to the listeners.
No, pleasure is all ours. I think let's kickstart the conversation with the history of September 24, especially for the Zulu people and the KZN region. It was once known as Shaka Zulu Day. Just a bit more context on that, and why was it renamed Heritage Day, and what does that shift tell us about post-apartheid politics?
Yeah, well, let me first make a disclaimer. I'm not a specialist in culture, but the reason why I accepted to speak to this day was a sense of pride and a sense of us as Africans to find ways to completely detach from being led by the West, because they are here for exploitation. They are not here for anything good. So the day, if you are a Zulu person, you may want to insist that it must be Shaka Day, because that was the day King Shaka was assassinated on the 24th of September 1828. But we also have to be very careful, because we Zulu people are part of the Nguni nation, which is part of the Bantu people, which is part of the Africans, which is Africans. So therefore, when this day came about, the origin of it being celebrated as a holiday under the public holidays bills, there is a history that a political party called Inkatha Freedom Party objected to this day not put as a holiday. And I think this was informed by, at least this was a leader of one of the powerful African nations that put the English in their place, the descendants of King Shaka, who's Tejwayo. So therefore, from the Inkatha Freedom Party, the messaging was, we have to have a Shaka Day on behalf of the death of our great King Shaka. But we also have to tell the people that when that talk was taking place, we also have a sub-Nguni group, which is Amaxhosa. They happen to have this day literally named Heritage Day for them, to remind them of their things that they're proud of, their craft, their culture, the things that they hold on to, which is called Amagugu. They used to celebrate this day as a Xhosa nation. So it happens on the same day, which is the 24th of September. So the two powerful Nguni tribes within the Nguni nation, Amaxhosa and Amazulu, had this day in common. And therefore, it was agreed that because South Africa is one country, let's incorporate this to being a holiday. It does not mean that if you are not Xhosa, you are not Zulu, you are submitting to this. We have other things that have come from other nations like Amapedi, which is the iron making. I'm trying to impress upon that to say, yes, the origin of it originates from one common day between the Xhosa nation and the Zulu nation, but it's now celebrated by all in South Africa.
Mm. And I think
Yeah.
that's my next point. The fact that there's currently a huge argument and conversation around Heritage Day being labeled as National Bride Day. A somewhat commercialized, watered down celebration. Do you think that trivializes the day, or does it actually create a shared tradition amongst all South Africans, despite color, creed, or what tribe you're from, or should we move away from this kind of commercialized aspect of the day and what it should be representing?
I think we should move away from commercializing the day or naming it a Pride Day. And as I said, I'm a very strong culturalist. I'm a very strong African who wants to preserve our culture. I think this is informed by the absence of the African people. We enforce things, but we don't follow up on them. This should not be a commercialized day in terms of like the way they want to do it. It should rather be a day where we remind Africans where they come from. We remind Africans about who they were and who they are before they mix with the rest of the nations of the world. But it doesn't happen like that because even the adult people now do not place a significance on this day. It's become a day where there's a lot of commercial activity, people selling traditional wear. Some taking advantage of it, being a prize. Some of it just comes as a holiday. Some of it not even having a conversation with their kids to say, hang on, they means this to you. I'll give you a simple example. My son, he works at the school. He was asked to come to school today, not because they are arrogant. It's simply because it has not occurred to the other people what would be the impact of asking a Zulu man to come today, to come to work on this day. And it's not the fault of those that says come to work. It's a fault of the day itself not having been properly put in the minds of people how important it is and how does it speak to all of us as Africans.
Mm, No, it's just very, very important to note. It's interesting that you mentioned your son, and for a lot of young South Africans in 2025, it almost feels like Heritage Day doesn't carry the same weight as maybe it did in the early years of democracy. Many of young people, aka 2002, they're so westernized that days like this, even from a commercial aspect, you don't really see them embracing it as you'd expect them to. How do we begin having those conversations with young people about the importance of celebrating our cultures, preserving our heritages? Because it seems like we have a generational divide where there's one or two generations that still hold the meaning and the practices of our traditions and cultures very close to our hearts. It's like after these two generations are gone, there's a big fear that South Africa might lose what it holds very, very dear, which is its diverse traditions, the different practices that we have across the board in all of our tribes that encapsulate and give meaning to what South Africa is.
Well, let me say this. I have a lot of hope Really, I have a lot of hope because you touched me on that one. And perhaps that's the reason why I accepted to come and speak, even though I'm not a specialist. There's two ends of the spectrum. This youth of today, the 2000s, they are doing something beautiful, even though they've got many challenges. They are
Mm,
questioning each and everything. They are even questioning the arrival of the Bible here. They are questioning how come God would leave us to suffer like this in our own land. But they just stop there by questioning because they haven't got means to then turn around their questions into solutions. So this is quite encouraging because we are raising a generation that says, no, we can't just accept the status quo because we can see clearly what is happening. But on one end of the spectrum, we must also accept us, the parents. I'm talking about your between people between 50 years old and 70 years old. We have failed them because we have not given them what is due to them. It's not their fault that they are called slave queens. It's not their fault that they are selling sex. It's not their fault that they are growing up in communities that have got so much drugs influx. It's simply because we, as the nation of parents, we are completely absent. We no longer emphasize the importance of sticking with one partner, celebrating having a girlfriend, because we allowed them, we first did it ourselves in front of them, where we did not appreciate sticking to a person that you marry. If you're going to bring another wife and you do it properly. We see this young generation embracing polygamy, but they're embracing polygamy and we're not doing anything about it to say you're doing the right because there should be no single mothers out there and there should be no irresponsible men out there. They are doing it on their own, but we as the parents are completely absent to say we are lucky because now they are embracing polygamy, but we have to remove the culture of slave queen. And the culture of slave queen itself is about money, is about submitting for sexual favors in order to get money. But underneath it, it has always been a culture that a man must take care of a woman even during courtship. She would
mm,
ask you, would you be able to take care of me? Would you be strong enough to look after me? And the culture of slave queens is speaking to that, but it's speaking to that in a different way because now you must take care of me now and you must take care of me in abundance. But to wrap up this, we as a Zulu nation, I'm not excluding the others because you can only start from home. We have come up with what we call Fasimba Loga Zulu. Fasimba was a strong regiment that King Shaka fought with because there was many regiments. So he belonged to that regiment that was called Ufasimba. It was made up of young, strong troops that were
mm,
fighting like nobody. But with that, to cut a long story short, we are now seeking to reinstall all of this to bring back our youth to say what you call slave queen, it's this. What you call this is that. So we cannot lose hope. We are going to win this battle, but I'm very happy that the young people themselves are leading this conversation to say, hang on, what is our culture? Because all we are seeing, we're seeing a lot of other people's culture. And
mm,
why have you abandoned polygamy? And they are questioning these things. Thank you.
mm, mm. Just lastly, before I let you go, the issue of South Africa, when you have such conversations, issues of race will always, prop their head. We have people of other races here in South Africa who unfortunately have not embraced the concept of South African cultures, South African identities, and speaking the other languages that are found here in South Africa. It's always mainly Black South Africans that need to assimilate, even though they are of majority. The conversation around race and how people from different races interact with people and tribes and cultures that they found here in South Africa. How do we begin having that conversation? I was speaking to a Kenyan friend of mine, and she told me how people from other races in Kenya speak Swahili. It doesn't matter they are white or they're Indian or it doesn't matter. They think it's important and they respect the fact that we live in a country which is majority Swahili speaking, and we should be assimilating and understanding because we are of a minority. it's not the case here in South Africa. How do we begin having that conversation and making people understand that, hey, you do need to learn. It's important.
Okay, now thank you so much. Eh, Someone will keep asking that question up until the sun drops on the sky, which is not going to happen. It's a conversation that many people have had to say, why are the minority groups not making an effort to speak our languages because we are a majority? But I would like to think, because I'm not an expert in everything. I would like to think that if a person doesn't have something that they really need from you, they're not going to make an effort to try and embrace speaking to you in terms of respect. I'm talking about in terms of respect, not that they are disrespecting you.
Mm.
So if you go to China and you know you're going to be there for a while, a couple of years, you are going to make an effort to speak China, because otherwise you're going to be left out, simply because the land of the Chinese is for the Chinese and they speak China, the Chinese language. Here we are an occupied nation. We are completely occupied to an extent that we actually want to call South Africa occupied Azania, not South Africa, because it's referring to its geographical location. This is occupied Azania.
Mm.
And I'm glad that the people in Kenya say people are making an effort to speak Swahili. So the only way the minority groups are going to make an effort to speak our languages is if we get back our land. Because without land, you are nothing. You can run your biggest corporation pension funds in the coast. You can be in Sentin, you can be, if we don't tell you that there are royalties that are due because you occupied our land and we want it back, it's only then that the people are going to make an effort, because they're going to know that the landlord, the owner of the land, he continues having a conversation with me. And for my own survival, I'm going to have to start respecting their culture. So if we continue being occupied, because South Africa is still an occupied nation, that is why we call ourselves occupied island. So the answer is, really, it's not going to take a conversation to say to them, also speak our language. It's going to take us to say, you are running Richards Bay Coal Terminal. You are crisscrossing the country with the trains. They are crisscrossing our land. We will tell you whether you can continue or you can stop now. We need to make it in such a way that the minority group understands that where they are thriving economically, they are thriving in an ecosphere of the land that belongs to the indigenous people. And if we not compare the conversation that is respectful on each side, we are not going to be united. And therefore, the answer for me is not about convincing them to speak. It's not about them making an effort. It's about them being made to feel that they are the tenants. They are the tenants. So we have to get back our land, and we have to push and get this young generation to say, your country is called occupied Azana. Your biggest job is to actually get it back, and then you can decide to name it whatever you want to name it. But it's not South Africa. At some point, it will have to stop being called occupied Azana. But we have to have a project where the decolonization project that speaks to even the naming of the country as occupied Azana. And there are so many other decolonization projects that we do. Lastly, before I go, we, Zulu Nation, because of our strength, we are now wanting to speak to our king, to speak to the Xhosa Nation, to go and stop the Cape independence. It's not going to take the Xhosa Nation to stop it. We are going to have to come out of Zulu, wherever we are, to say the Zulus are leading this fight. Stop the Cape independence, stop the talk. It's not going to happen. But we have to team up with the people that are occupying that land, which is mainly the Xhosa people. But we will lead it to say the Cape independence talk must stop, because there's not going to be a Cape independence. Thank you.
No, thank you so much, Zakhele Madela. Really appreciate you giving us your time this morning.
Thank you.
There you go. Yeah, I think a very, very important conversation, different aspects of what makes South Africa. And yeah, can tell us what are your thoughts regarding some of the different discussions and elements of this very, very important day that we discussed with Madela. You can engage with us on our various social media platforms, on WhatsApp 0116800355, and yeah, can talk. beautiful Heritage Day, but still, in a country like ours, it's so multifaceted, and there's still some things we need to get right. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, News and Views continues.